Now, you may be asking yourself, what is simultaneous contrast? The way I can explain that is by saying that simultaneous contrast is a visual complementary contrast, which means that this color swatch here, for example, that shows the red and the yellow, the complementary color to yellow is violet. And a little bit of that violet mixes optically with the red that is in front of it. Therefore, the red gains a slight tinge of the complementary color of yellow. So therefore, the red hue is changed ever so slightly, violet. It doesn't mean that the red becomes violet. It's still red, but it just gains a slight tinge of violet, hardly noticeable. This color phenomenon results from the fact that the human eye demands the presence of the complementary to any existing color. And that's why this red demands the complementary color of yellow, which is violet. Now, if this complementary color is not present, the human eye automatically produces it for itself. And since there is no violet present here in this color swatch, and the human eye demands the complementary color of yellow, it then produces it for itself, and then you see that violet mixed with the red, and therefore giving it a very slight tinge of violet. But again, hardly noticeable. It's important to know this because when you place one color against another, that color will change due to the influence of the other color's complementary color. So you need to be aware of this and compensate for it if need be. Otherwise, the color that you have in mind for your painting may continue to look different from what you would like it to be. And you may scratch your head and you can't figure out, why is this color not looking the way I want it to look? And the reason may be because of simultaneous contrast. And that's why it's important to know about this. Now this color swatch down here, where the red is seen against a dark green background. Here, the kind of simultaneous contrast that occurs up here in this color swatch, where the complementary color of yellow mixes with the red, is not present. Although the eye produces the complementary color of green, which is red, it doesn't alter the hue of this red, like in this case where the hue of red is altered ever so slightly with a tinge of violet, because the complementary color of green is red, and therefore there isn't a different color present or produced by the eye that mixes with the red and would then change that red slightly. As you can see, I've changed the size of the red shade, made it quite a bit smaller. And the reason for that is because when a color is placed within a greater area of color, like the red is now, then the influence of the complementary color of the background becomes stronger, and therefore this red now appears a little more obviously tinged with violet, leaning a little more to the violet than it did before when there was less of the yellow background to be seen. And I think you can more easily see now that this red does lean ever so slightly to the violet. But with the green, as I mentioned earlier, the complementary color is red, so the red just mixes with the red, and it doesn't change the hue, like in this example here. I've created this other color swatch because I'd like to prove to you that this phenomenon of simultaneous contrast actually occurs. And you can clearly see it for yourself if you stare at this yellow shape within the red field for maybe about 10 or 15 seconds. Don't take your eyes away from this yellow shape. Just keep staring at it. And then after about 15 seconds, look away downwards to where the white area is. And you'll see an after image consisting of the complementary color of yellow, which is violet, and then the complementary color of red, which is green. Also, I'd like to mention that when you place bright, brilliant colors together, like these that you see here, there's a color vibrancy that occurs, an energy of color that happens. Here's a rough color sketch that I quickly did to show you simultaneous contrast as it applies to an actual subject that has been painted, and not just color swatches. By placing the red building within this larger field of yellow, the red hue of the building is influenced by the complementary color of yellow, which, as you know, is violet, and therefore the building is slightly tinged with that complementary color and leans a little the violet, but it's not very noticeable. But still, it's something that I took into account when I did this rough color sketch, knowing that the complementary color of yellow will slightly change this red. The red will look slightly different than if I had a different color background. And I'll show you what it looks like with a different color background. And here you see another version, a different colored sky. Now, the red building takes on a somewhat different appearance. It tends to look brighter and warmer, and leans a little toward the orange, because the complementary color of blue is orange. And you see that occurring here in this color swatch. This red appears somewhat different than this red here, seen against the yellow background. Here, the red appears a little warmer, leaning a little the orange. But again, it's just a slight change. But you can see the difference, I think, between this red and this red, due to the influence of the complementary color of the background against which the red is seen. And that's exactly what happens here. It's this background color that influences the color of the red and causes this red to appear a little different than the red that was seen against the yellow sky. Here you can see the two color sketches side by side and compare the two red buildings. I think you can see that this red building appears somewhat warmer, not only because it's seen against a cool color, but also because of the complementary color of the blue being orange and optically mixing slightly with the red and warming it up and making it lean a little bit orange. But again, it's very slight. And here the red appears a little less bright and a little less warm than this red. And again, there is a slight hint of the complementary color of yellow influencing this red to a small degree. I should note that every color in the picture tries to alter any other color which is not complementary to it in the direction of this complementary. So this means that the red is not a complementary to the blue. So therefore the blue tries to alter the red in the direction of its complementary, which is orange. And so it is with this example. The red is not a complementary to the yellow, and therefore the complementary of the yellow tries to alter this red toward violet. So you see how this works? If a color is not a direct complementary, The eye will produce the complementary, and the color will tend toward the complementary of that color. Here, with the green, there isn't this kind of alteration because the red is the complementary to the green. So the green doesn't try to alter the red because red is the complementary to green. So there's nothing to alter. And that brings me to the end of this lesson on simultaneous contrast. I hope you remember how your colors in your paintings are changed due to this simultaneous contrast of colors tending to change other colors in the direction of their complementary color.